Hold up. Before we start, I need you to do something. Picture the Monopoly guy right now. Got him? Big mustache, top hat, and that fancy monocle, right? Pause. Wrong. He's never worn a monocle. Not once. Not ever. Your childhood is a lie, and you're about to find out why thousands of people are confidently wrong about the exact same things. What's up, Mythbusters? Welcome back to Debunk Factory, where we take the world's most viral conspiracy theories and give them the scientific smackdown they deserve. I'm your host, and if that Monopoly thing just blew your mind, you ain't seen nothing yet. Because today, we're diving headfirst into the conspiracy theory that claims you, yes, you, have been slipping between parallel universes your entire life without even knowing it. And the proof? The fact that you and millions of others remember things that never actually happened. It's called the Mandela Effect. And some people genuinely believe that when we misremember something, we haven't just made a mistake. We've literally shifted between different realities. Because apparently, the most logical explanation for getting something wrong is that we've accidentally dimension hopped, like we're in some cosmic game of musical chairs. Now, I know what you're thinking, but I swear the Monopoly guy had a monocle. And you know what? You're not alone. Thousands of people remember the exact same thing. But here's the kicker. They're all wrong for the exact same psychological reasons. So buckle up, because we're about to take a joyride through the wonderful world of false memories, cognitive biases, and why your brain is basically an unreliable narrator with a creative writing degree. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why the real glitch in the matrix isn't parallel universes. It's the incredibly fascinating way your brain works. Trust me. This is going to be way more mind-bending than any multiverse theory. Let's start with the classics, shall we? The Mandela Effect's greatest hits album, if you will. First up, the Berenstain Bears. Emphasis on Stein. Wait, no, the Berenstain Bears. That's right, folks, it's Stain, not Stein. I know, your childhood is a lie. But before you start shopping for parallel universe real estate, let me blow your mind with this crazy concept. Maybe you just misread it as a kid? Think about it. You're 6 years old. You can barely tie your shoes, and you're trying to parse the difference between Stein and Stain. Plus, Berenstain follows a much more common naming pattern. It's like when you see Frankenstein everywhere, but somehow miss that it's actually Frankenstein, not Frankenstein. Our brains love patterns, even when they're wrong. Then there's the Monopoly man. Go ahead, picture him right now. Big mustache, top hat, monocle, right? Wrong. Mr. Monopoly, whose actual name is Rich Uncle Pennybags, because, of course it is, has never worn a monocle. Not once. Not ever. This is where it gets funny, because people are so sure about this that they'll argue with you until they're blue in the face. But here's the kicker. You know who does wear a monocle? Mr. Peanut. Your brain basically went, old-timey rich guy with a mustache and hat equals monocle, and boom. False memory created. It's like your brain is playing a game of close enough, but forgot to tell you about it. Comedic timing. And let's talk about Star Wars. How many of you remember Darth Vader saying, "Luke, I am your father"? If you raised your hand, congratulations. You're wrong. What he actually says is, "No, I am your father." But Luke, "I am your father" sounds way cooler and more dramatic when you're quoting it at parties. So that's what stuck. Now, before all the parallel universe enthusiasts start typing angry comments, let me explain what's actually happening in your brain when you experience the Mandela Effect. Spoiler alert, it's not interdimensional travel. What we're dealing with here are false memories, and they're more common than you might think. Recent studies of false memories show they're internally generated but suggestible and emotionally facilitated fantasies or impulses rather than repressed memories of real events. Your brain isn't a video recorder. It's more like that friend who retells stories but adds a little extra drama each time. Every time you remember something, you're not just pulling up a file, you're reconstructing it. And each reconstruction is influenced by what you know now, what you've heard since, and what feels right to you. This is where it gets really interesting. There's something called confabulation, which is basically your brain's way of filling in gaps in memory with information that seems plausible. Confabulation is the creation of false memories in the absence of intentions of deception. You're not lying. Your brain is just really confident in its ability to improvise. But wait, there's more. We also have something called priming. Priming uses suggestive techniques to trigger a certain response, like how reading the word grass makes you think of tree or lawnmower faster than unrelated words. Your brain is constantly making connections, and sometimes those connections lead you astray. Here's where it gets really spicy. The Mandela Effect isn't just about individual false memories, it's about collective false memories, and there's a perfectly logical explanation for this too. No parallel universes required. Think about how information spreads in the digital age. Someone posts on Reddit. Does anyone else remember the Monopoly guy having a monocle? Suddenly, hundreds of people are going, OMG, yes, I totally remember that. But here's the thing. They might not have remembered it until someone suggested it. This is called social reinforcement of false memories. One person's confident false memory becomes the seed that grows into a collective false memory. It's like a game of telephone. But instead of the message getting garbled, everyone agrees on the wrong version. And let's be honest, once you're invested in a false memory, it's really hard to let go. It's like trying to convince someone that their favorite childhood movie actually sucked. The emotional investment makes you dig in your heels, even when presented with evidence to the contrary. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. Or should I say, the parallel universe in the multiverse. Some people genuinely believe that the Mandela Effect is evidence that we're shifting between parallel realities. Because apparently, the most logical explanation for misremembering something is that we've accidentally dimension hopped. Let me get this straight. You're telling me that instead of accepting that human memory is fallible, which we've known for literally centuries, you'd rather believe that we're constantly slipping between universes, where the only differences are minor details like spelling and movie quotes? If parallel universes were real and we were actually shifting between them, wouldn't there be bigger changes? Like, I don't know, different historical events, different scientific discoveries? Instead, we get a reality where the only difference is whether a cartoon bear family spells their name with an E or an A. Oh no, I've slipped into a parallel universe where checks notes. The Fruit of the Loom logo doesn't have a cornucopia, because apparently the multiverse's biggest concern is copyright design choices. Here's the thing about extraordinary claims. They require extraordinary evidence, and I remember it differently is not extraordinary evidence. It's actually the most ordinary evidence possible because people misremember things constantly. Let's talk about the real villains in this story. Cognitive biases. These are the systematic errors in thinking that affect our decisions and judgments. And boy, do we have a lot of them when it comes to the Mandela Effect. First up, confirmation bias. Once you believe you remember something a certain way, you're more likely to notice and remember information that confirms your belief while ignoring information that contradicts it. It's like having selective hearing, but for facts. Then, there's the availability heuristic. We tend to overestimate the likelihood of events that come to mind easily. If you can easily imagine the Monopoly guy with a monocle, your brain thinks, well, that must be right because I can picture it so clearly. And let's not forget about source monitoring errors. Sometimes we remember information but forget where we learned it. So you might remember hearing, "Luke, I am your father," in a parody or reference. But your brain files it under things Darth Vader said, instead of things people say when they're quoting Star Wars. For example, the false belief that the Monopoly man wears a monocle may draw from the fact that the eyepiece seems like an appropriate accessory for the character. Your brain is basically going, "This feels right, so it must be true." The internet has supercharged the Mandela Effect in ways that would make even the most creative conspiracy theorist jealous. We now have entire communities dedicated to sharing false memories, reinforcing each other's misconceptions, and coming up with increasingly elaborate explanations for why they're all wrong about the same things. It's like a support group for people who refuse to accept that they might be mistaken. "Hi, my name is Karen, and I remember Jiffy peanut butter." "Hi, Karen." It's Jif, by the way. It's always been Jif. The problem is that when you surround yourself with people who share your false memories, it feels like validation. "See? I'm not crazy. Hundreds of people remember it the same way." But here's the thing. Hundreds of people can be wrong about the same thing. It's not like there's a magic number where false memories become true memories. Let's talk about nostalgia, because it plays a huge role in the Mandela Effect. Most of these false memories involve things from our childhood: cartoons, movies, books, logos we saw growing up. And here's the thing about childhood memories. They're notoriously unreliable. Kids don't pay attention to details the way adults do. You weren't carefully studying the Berenstain Bears logo. You were just excited to read about anthropomorphic bears having family adventures. Your brain filled in the gaps with what seemed reasonable at the time. Plus, nostalgia has a way of making everything seem more significant than it actually was. That's why people get so emotionally invested in defending their false memories. It's not just about whether the Monopoly guy had a monocle, it's about defending your childhood, your sense of self, your understanding of reality. Here's the irony. The real glitch in the matrix isn't parallel universes or dimensional shifts. It's the fact that we've evolved brains that are incredibly good at pattern recognition and meaning-making, but sometimes they're a little too good at it. Your brain is constantly trying to make sense of the world around you, filling in gaps, making connections, and creating coherent narratives from incomplete information. Most of the time, this works great. But sometimes it leads to false memories that feel absolutely real. The truly amazing thing isn't that we sometimes remember things wrong. It's that we remember things right most of the time. Your brain is processing an insane amount of information every second, and the fact that it doesn't constantly create false memories is actually remarkable. Let's be real for a moment. I think part of the appeal of the parallel universe explanation is that it's more comforting than the truth. It's easier to believe that reality is shifting around us than to accept that our memories, the foundation of our sense of self, might be unreliable. Admitting that you misremembered something feels like admitting weakness, but believing that you've shifted between parallel universes, that makes you special. That makes you part of an exclusive club of people who are sensitive to dimensional changes. It's the same psychological appeal that drives a lot of conspiracy theories. The idea that you have special knowledge or access to hidden truths is intoxicating. It's more exciting than the mundane reality that sometimes we just get things wrong. So, what's the bottom line here? The Mandela Effect is real. But it's not evidence of parallel universes or dimensional shifts. It's evidence that human memory is fallible, that our brains are incredibly creative meaning makers, and that we're all a lot more suggestible than we'd like to admit. The Mandela Effect is a kind of collective misremembering that happens because we all have similar cognitive biases and similar ways of processing information. We're not shifting between realities. We're just human. And you know what? That's actually more amazing than any parallel universe theory. The fact that millions of people can independently arrive at the same false memory tells us something incredible about how our brains work, how we process information, and how we connect with each other. Instead of reaching for supernatural explanations, maybe we should appreciate the natural wonder of human cognition, flaws and all. Your brain might not be perfect, but it's doing its best with the information it has. And sometimes, its best guess is that the Berenstain Bears were spelled with an E. Look, I get it. The parallel universe explanation is way more fun than your brain makes mistakes sometimes. But here's the thing. Science doesn't care about fun. Science cares about evidence, and the evidence overwhelmingly points to psychological explanations for the Mandela Effect. So, what's the bottom line here? The Mandela Effect is real, but it's not evidence of parallel universes or dimensional shifts. It's evidence that human memory is fallible, that our brains are incredibly creative meaning makers, and that we're all a lot more suggestible than we'd like to admit. The Mandela Effect is a kind of collective misremembering that happens because we all have similar cognitive biases and similar ways of processing information. We're not shifting between realities, we're just human.